In this video, we're going to talk about team calendars. Team calendars are great for if you have like a sales team and you want to have multiple people on the same calendar. It's great to kind of see all the appointments booked at a glance to where you can see all of the calendars at once. And so you may want to have a team calendar set up. So how do you actually set up a team calendar? Well, first, we've got a couple of steps we need to do before we can get into the setup of the calendar. The first step is to make sure that all of your team members are already added to the platform. If we're going to add users to the platform, we want to make sure that we already have the users into the actual account. So let's set up your users first. So navigate over to the settings button. You're going to hit that in the lower left-hand corner. You're going to navigate to this little menu right here that says My Staff. It's the second option down in the settings. So click on My Staff. And what you want to do is to make sure that all of your team members are already on here. So if you've got different sales reps, you want to add those in there and so forth. Anybody that's going to be on your team calendar, that's what you want to put right here into this section. So click on Add Employee. And what you're going to do is just go through these options right here and just make sure that each person is set up ready to go. So you're going to click on User Info, fill out their first name, last name, email, phone, password. Basically going to set them up with their own account. Their permissions. You can toggle the different things that they need access to or don't need access to. You can set up their user roles, admin or user. You can set up their call and voicemail settings as well. Their availability. So you can set up the meeting locations. You can set up their time zone and their available hours. And then you can also integrate their Google or Outlook accounts into the calendar system. So they're going to have to actually log in to do this step, but you want to go ahead and set them up on this and click Save when you're done. Now, once you've got your users set up that we want to put on our calendar, it's time to jump over to the calendar settings. So you can click on this little calendars icon here in the left navigation panel. It's the fourth one down. Click on calendars. And we're going to set up a group. So we're not going to click on the new calendar button here. We're actually going to set up a group first. So click Add Group in the upper right-hand corner. And we're going to give our group a name. So I'll click on, we'll just put team. We'll give it a description. And you're going to have a unique slug. This is what's going to go at the end of the URL. So we'll just put in like something unique. If you get an X here, that means that you just need to change your link to be something different. It means that somebody already has that added in as their URL. So click on Save. And now we've got our team calendar core part, the group, set up. So now we need to add a calendar into the group. And the first thing we want to set up is the appointment distribution. This determines how your actual meetings on the calendar are going to be distributed amongst the actual team members. So you can optimize for availability. So whoever is available at that time, they can book an appointment for there, or optimize for equal distribution. So if you have like round robin scheduling set up, you want to make sure it's as equal as possible. You might select that option there. In my case, I'm just going to do it for availability. That way we maximize our chances for appointments. Next up, we're going to click on the Add Users. And if we've already set up our users, they should appear right here on the drop-down box. So you're going to add all of the users in. And so we'll select them one at a time. You can select their priority between high, medium, or low. And you can also set up their links for their actual meetings. So if they are doing like a meeting over Zoom or Google Meet, you can select those. If you're doing Zoom or Google Meet, you want to it's going to integrate with their actual profile. So you want to have that set up. Zoom will allow you to connect it in, but they've got to kind of log in, add that in on their own. In our case, we're just going to leave it as custom. And then you would add the meeting link that would go to their Zoom account or their, whatever their virtual meeting software link is. You want to add it here. So then we'll click on Add User and we'll add our other users in. So you do this for all the team members that you want to add into the account. Once you've got that done, it's time to set up the actual calendar. So we're going to go down here and do a calendar name. So we'll just put this team support for ours, but you can call it whatever you want. You can add a description. So we'll just do support calendar here for an example purposes. And then we're going to have a little slug for the URL. So I'm just going to put in support at the end. as long as I get that check, that means we're good to advance over. Then you're going to have an appointment title. This is what it's going to be, the title for the appointments that shows up on the calendars and for the meetings themselves. I like to leave it at the contact name because it's kind of a unique variable that lets us know who we're meeting with right at the top. And you can choose the event color. So if you want to change the color of the actual appointment, feel free to change the colors there. You may also want to check the colors because if you have the calendars synced up with Google, you might have a color over there already. So you might want to do something different if you're syncing in with Google Calendar. So click Save and Continue. Now it's time to set up the appointment slot settings. So here's where you can configure the duration and the intervals for the appointments. So how long do you need for the appointments? How long do you need for the duration between each appointment? So maybe you want to have some time in between that, maybe like 10 minutes for them to prepare or something, between each appointment and so forth. You can also change the interval of the time. And you can also set up if you want to have how many appointments per slot. This is helpful for that way it doesn't exceed the amount of staff you have and things like that. So you can change that up. You can also change the appointments per day. How many appointments do you want your users to have each day? Now, the scheduling notice, this is really helpful to prevent last minute bookings. Sometimes when you have a last minute booking, let's say it's like 1:55 and then you allow an appointment at 2 o'clock, they're not going to have enough time to really get prepared for that appointment, or sometimes they'll miss the notifications. And so it's helpful if you set up a scheduling notice. That way they have some time in between appointments. So maybe you choose maybe a couple of days before or a couple of hours before, but you can set up a minimum schedule notice of hours, days, weeks, or even months. You can also set up the date range for how long of a slot they can actually book an appointment. Sometimes this is helpful to funnel people into going and booking their appointments earlier. So for example, you might allow a date range of the next 7 days to book your appointment. That way they're not booking out a month in advance or something like that. You can kind of funnel them into the time slots that you want them to do. That might be something you want to change later as your schedule fills up, but you've got the flexibility to change out the range of time right here. Office hours, these are the days that in times that you allow the appointments to come through. So if you're not open on like Saturday or Sunday, you may want to deselect those days or add them in if you are open. You can change the hours that you accept times. And then once you've got that all set up, click Save and Continue. Next up, you've got the form settings. So if you have a custom information that you want to have on your form, like maybe you want to ask specific questions, head back over to the form creation videos and create a form that has the questions that you want to have access to for your appointment, and you could actually select it from the drop-down box here. It's helpful for if you need to know specific information when you're meeting with someone. Next up, you've got the use sticky contact information, so you can have that autofill. That way they don't have to enter their information twice. This is helpful for things like if you had them opt in and then they go to the calendar page, you can just carry over their information. So you may want to check that box so that way when they're filling out forms and things like that, if they've already filled out the information once, they're not having to do it multiple times. So I often will use sticky contact. That way it puts their information over and saves it so they're not having to fill out multiple forms at the same time. Notification and additional options. When you have an appointment, you want to make sure that you select the different options for how you get notified of the appointment. So the calendars can auto-confirm your appointments. If you want to make sure that you have somebody that gets notified and then confirms, you may want to uncheck that. I like to auto-confirm mine. That way they already know that I've accepted the appointment and so forth, and then just can go and show up at the same time that they've set up. Now you can also send appointment alert emails to the users of the appointment. This is definitely something you probably want to check so that you're notifying your team when they have an appointment there. You can allow Google Calendar to send the invitation or update emails to the attendees if you want. If you get that synced up with Google Calendar, you can do that. You can also allow rescheduling and cancellation. So this is helpful. This is like the email that goes out. So maybe you want to have an email that goes out that allows them to reschedule if suddenly they can't make it. This is really helpful for going ahead and getting them to book or cancel their own appointments. That way you're not blocking up time on your calendar and having to do it manually. So I like to allow the reschedule and cancellation. That way they can do it on their own. And you can assign contacts to their respective calendar team members each time an appointment is booked if you want. So once somebody sets up a calendar, you can actually assign that contact to that user. That way they can follow up with them and so forth if you click that button. So you've got the additional notes. This is what's going to go in the email confirmation over to the client. So you may want to adjust that to fit your needs. You've got the Facebook Pixel ID. So if you're tracking conversions, you can add in your Facebook Pixel to be able to see when you've got an appointment booked. And you can also add in custom code for the calendar. This, just so you know, can only include HTML and JavaScript, but not CSS. That's the stuff that you have to do on the page of. Next up, you've got form submissions. What do you want to display after they've filled out the calendar link and booked the appointment? You can have a custom thank you message here if you've got this option selected. You can actually change this, edit this text however you want it here. Or you can also, once they fill out a form, to redirect them over to a specific website page. So maybe you have your own thank you page set up. You can select form, resubmit, redirect, and just provide the URL there that you want them to go to. I like to use custom thank you message unless I actually have a page set up to try to get them to take more actions. But it's up to you how you customize your form submissions. Once you've got all that set up, click the complete button, and now your calendar is set up. You've got it structured, ready to go, and you've got the calendar link here where you can send out to people.